Hi everybody, I'm Judith Uyterlinde, publisher at World Editions, and I'd like to welcome you to this online conversation together with Adeline Dieudonné, author of Real Life, a book originally written in French and translated into English by Roland Glasser. And this is what the book looks like, Real Life, a beautiful book. Let me introduce the author to you, Adeline. Welcome, Adeline.
Thank you, Judith.
Adeline Dieudonné.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Adeline Dieudonné is a Belgian author and lives in Brussels. And Real Life was her debut, and it was published in France in autumn 2018. And since then, it's become a terribly big success in not only in France, but it's also been sold into 18 territories and won most of the French literary prizes. I'm not going to name them all. The conversation will be ended when I'm ended with this list. Yeah, welcome, Adeline. And can you tell us a little bit what the book is about and what gave you the idea of writing it?
Yeah, of course. So Real Life is the story of a weird family in a strange house full of hunting trophies. There are two children, the little heroine and her young brother, Sam. And we will follow them for 6 summers from her 10 to 15 years old. And first summer, an accident occurs that will traumatize those two kids. And the little girl will fight to save her brother. And she will meet different characters, a woman who lives in the woods, kind of a witch, and a beautiful champion of martial arts, and a professor of physics. So Real Life is the story of this young girl who's struggling to survive in a surrealistic and terrifying world. What gave me the idea of the book, I had that image of those two kids in front of this accident that occurs in the first year. And I wanted to follow them and to know what would happen to them and how they will survive with that image in their brain.
So it's partly about violence, about children dealing with death. What do you say?
Yeah, but not also. But yeah, it starts from violence and how we deal with the idea of death. I was interested. It's an idea very difficult to live with, but for children, I wanted to know what it makes to them to realize that they can die and there are accidents that can occur, but also, yeah, how to survive in such a violent world, and what can help them. And the little girl, she will find help with the knowledge, the physics. She will fight to build a machine, a time machine. Mm-hmm. And it will be her goal, and yeah, how having a goal in life can help, but also sexuality, because she's 10 at the beginning of the book, but 15 at the end. So how her sensations and her growing sexuality will help her also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is a very strong heroine in spite of the things happening around her. She's really a character to love, with a lot of fantasy and yeah, very strong figure. And what I also very much liked about your book is it's written with a lot of humor. And yeah, maybe you can read a little bit from the book to give an impression of your style.
Yeah, sure. It's pretty. It's not the first page, but it's the second one. So it's the beginning of the book. My father was huge, with broad shoulders, the build of a slaughterman. He had giant's hands. hands that could have ripped the head of a chick the way you'd pop the cap on a Coke bottle. Besides hunting, my father had two passions in life, television and Scotch whiskey. When he wasn't scouring the planet for animals to kill, he plugged the TV into speakers that had cost as much as a small car, a bottle of Glenfiddich in his hand. And the way he talked at my mother, you could have replaced her with a houseplant and he wouldn't have known the difference. My mother lived in dread of my father. I think that's pretty much all I can say about her, leaving aside her obsession with gardening and miniature goats. She was a thin woman with long, limp hair. I don't know if she existed before meeting him. I imagine she did. She must have resembled a primitive life form, single-celled, vaguely translucent, an amoeba. Just ectoplasm, endoplasm, a nucleus, and a digestive vacuole. Years of contact with my father had gradually filled this scrap of nothing with fear. Their wedding photos always intrigued me. As far back as I can remember, I can see myself studying the album in search of a clue, something that might have explained this weird union. Love, admiration, esteem, joy, a smile, something. I never found it. In the pictures, my father posed as in his hunting photographs, but without the pride. An amoeba doesn't make a very impressive trophy, for sure. It isn't hard to catch one, a bit of stagnant water in a glass, and presto. So she loves her parents.
Yeah, you can tell, you can tell. Thank you, Adeline. Yeah, it was wonderfully translated by Roland Glasser. And I wonder, have you been in touch during the translation process? Did he have a lot of questions? Were there things to discuss?
Yeah, we were a lot in touch. He asked me a lot of questions, and it was very interesting for me because it's my first novel. So I had no idea of the process of translation, and yeah, it was very, very interesting. And it's not the case in every language, because it has been translated in 20 languages for so far. And some translator ask me some help, and some other don't. And it doesn't mean the translation is bad at all. But yeah, Roland asked me a lot, and it was very interesting. And there are some questions I didn't expect it, and it was very interesting. For example, do we have to transpose the context of the country, or for example, things they are eating, that the character are eating? There are very Belgian meals in the book, and do we transform it to make English meals or American meals? And also the names. For example, in the French version, the little brother is called Gilles, but Gilles is a very French name. Yeah, Roland asked me what I wanted, and I wanted to transform it in English. And so in English, his name is Sam. And maybe that's why, that's because I should have called him Sam in the French version, because Sam is a very special name for me, because my big sister calls Severine, me, I'm Adeline, and my little brother, Maxime, my little brothers, Maxime and Melvin. So if you take the first letter, it makes Sam. So it was important for me that the little brother was called Sam in the English version.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Thank you. And the other the thing you just said about food, and did you also transform it to a different cultural, the UK or US situation, or did you decide to stick with the Belgian food? And
in the other translations, I think
no.
there are no.
I mean, you just mentioned that you were also in touch about, or he asked questions about things like food that is specific to Belgium. If did you stay with the? Did it?
No,
did you Belgium? Oh.
No, we changed it.
Oh.
We changed it because but it's a real question, and we took a few days to think about it, because in real life I don't give names to the places, and and most of the characters have no name, because I wanted the story to be very universal, and that it could have happened everywhere. So I wanted the food to be adapted, so everyone could think it's happening in his or her neighborhood. So, for example, they are eating at one moment smouterbollen, and it's a very Belgian specialty. In fact, it's like donut. Yeah. But in Belgium, you say smouterbollen. It's even more than in Belgium, it's in Brussels, in the Brussels language. So it's very, very local. So yeah, we changed it, and it became donut in the English version.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And when you read the English translation, did it still feel like your own book, or is it like someone else wrote it? How does it feel to read your own translation?
That's very special, because yeah, it's still my book. Definitely, I Roland made an amazing job. So I recognize every sentence. I recognize every emotion in the book. So it's still, it's not mine, because I think it has never been my book, because it's the story of this little girl, and the person the translator shouldn't betray is the little girl. It's not me. They can't betray me. It's not a problem. I just have to recognize my little heroine, and I recognized her, and she was definitely here in the English version. So yeah, and it's very emotional, because yeah, English, it's special for us in Europe, because I see a lot of movies in English. I read a lot of books in English. So English is kind of a consecration. I don't know, but it's very special to see your story in English.
Well, thank you so much, Adeline Dieudonné. It's been a big pleasure talking to you about this beautiful book, Real Life. Thank you, everybody, for joining this online conversation. And I'd like to tell you that you can buy the book. You can, of course, order it at your local bookstore if that's still open, and if not, you can order it through our website, www.worldeditions.org. And this is what the book looks like, Real Life. It's beautiful. Do read it. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much, Adeline, for joining this conversation.
Thank you, Judith. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.